Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. We're continuing the top 100 board games of all time list with numbers 60 through 51. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow. And for those of you already subscribed, thank you so much for the continuous support. Let's talk about the best board games, the 2023 edition. Starting off with number 60 for this section of the list is Ink and Gold. New to the list, this is a filler game of diving into a temple, and it's your goal to try to get the most treasure. You're going to do this through a push your luck system where you're deciding every round whether you want to stay by revealing your pawn in your hand, or you're revealing nothing, which means you're getting out of there. If you leave, you keep all of your treasure and split whatever's left over, but if you stay, it's only you who are going to be sharing the loot that gets revealed on the cards. If you reveal enough hazards, you'll get kicked out, but you're trying to make the most money over the course of 5 rounds. And my favorite part about this game, though, has to be the addition of the artifacts cards in the recent editions of the game. The artifacts give you another reason to leave early, because if you're the only person to leave, you also get to take this artifact, and based on how early you take them in the game, they're going to give you a certain amount of treasure. So the first one's 5, then 7, I think it's 8, then 10, so on and so forth. But you're getting something extra if you are leaving early, which puts the pressure on that choice even further. Generally, it's just the treasure that's left, but there's also these artifacts that can allow you to dip to just get that guaranteed cash, because you're never sure what's actually going to show up in your path in this temple. I love how simple the entire system is here with this push your luck. I think it's distilled to a nice level while also retaining these great choices, when to stay, when to go, and the artifacts do a great job of adding to that. So that is my number 60, Ink and Gold, also known as Diamant. My number 59, number 93 last year, is Las Vegas Royale. This is a dice rolling game of collecting money as you try to control different parts of a casino. You'll roll your dice up and pick a single number and take all of the dice of that number and place them in the matching casino. At the end of the round, whoever has the most dice there collects the highest value money there, but if there's ever a tie, you have to remove your dice from that section. Now, during this Royale version, there are also these casinos, and that's my favorite part about this experience. These smaller casinos at the bottom here that have special mini games going on. If you go to one of the 1s, 2s, or 3s, in addition to fighting for the cash there, you'll also get to participate in a little mini game, which gives you another venue for getting different money, as well as special effects that can disrupt the other area control. And that's for sure the greatest thing. It gives you another thing to do with your dice, so it's not just about going for those big numbers, but you're also having to incorporate the abilities of these different casinos and how they're going to change the landscape from round to round. And every time you play, you're going to choose 3 of these casinos, put them in, and then after that first round, you take them out and replace them with 3 more. So you get 9 mini games during your entire experience. They have double-sided as well, so then you have 16 total to choose from, and it makes each game something that's going to be memorable and varied each time. I love this so much. It's a great mechanism that needs to be incorporated in more things, adding something to do for something that's a bit less value that can affect potentially the other things. So that's my number 59, that is Las Vegas Royale. My number 58, number 30 last year, goes to Role Player, a dice drafting game based around the Dungeons & Dragons RPG character creation portion, where you're going to be literally rolling up a character, drafting dice, and putting them into different stat blocks, trying to reach certain numbers based on whatever your backstory is or your lore. Everything has to do with adding up these values, triggering special abilities, and getting that specific number. But my favorite part about this game is actually how you acquire the cards and the types of cards that you can get. It's a draft in the central area here. You'll roll the dice up, and the better the die is, the last that you're going to get picking during this market phase, when you'll have all of these choices to pick from, but you're going to have to balance whether or not you want that large number or a specific color with these cards that you can actually draft. And the cards are super cool. You have some cards that are just straight points, some that are going to give you special abilities that you can activate, on, and then there's other cards that give you additional scoring conditions that can guide your strategy during the game, and you're going to be accruing these 1 card per round, so you're always getting something new. You can also go fight creatures with this option, but just the fact there are so many choices when it comes to the cards here makes this compelling, and it's going to get you playing quite a bit. In tandem with the dice placement, Role Player is my favorite in this genre of dice and placed into grids to try to get specific numbers. Think things like Sagrada. So that is my number 58, Role Player. My number 57, number 63 last year, goes to Coconuts. This is a lightweight filler style game where you're going to be flicking coconuts into cups using these monkey contraption toys. You'll pull their hands down and they'll launch the coconuts, and it's your goal to just try to get 6 cups and stack them into a pyramid in front of you. Now, the reason I think this game is so compelling has to do with its self-balancing as well as its built-in timer. As you play, you're flicking these coconuts into the center, and when they land into a cup, they stay in there, but then you take that cup and put it in front of you. When all the coconuts are gone, that's one of the end game triggers, or if someone gets that stack of 6, which means as you play, you're going to be trying to flick into somebody who's hitting close to that 6, which means you have actual reasons to interact with the other people and stop them. You can see how the cups shift and move from the different players as they pressure you to be proactive on stopping each other from winning. I love the concept here and the addition of these red cups, which are bonus action cups. If you hit those, they can cascade you into successes, meaning that there are possible ways to get these crazy swing turns where you're able to take a bunch of cups for the person in the lead if they're red and continue on to progress to your winning condition. So that is my number 57, that is coconuts. My number 56, number 51 last year, is Heroes of Tenefyr. This is a deck building game where you and your party of adventurers are going into separate dungeons, and each of those dungeons has a reward at the end, but first you must defeat the monsters that wait there. You'll do this through a deck building push your luck style, and every time you defeat one of these creatures, the person who slayed it is going to flip it around and it becomes one of the player cards that's going to go into their deck, giving them new abilities and things to tap into. My favorite part about this game though is the deck building itself. Whenever you're fighting a creature and it's your turn, you'll reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, and you decide right then and there if you want to keep it, or you could discard all 3 cards and reveal 3 more, and you could do this as much as you want. But be careful, that deck of cards does not get reshuffled until you've gone through the entire dungeon in that run. So if you decide to stick with some subpar hand, that means you actually get to participate in the future rounds. But if you really need to beat something, you might be digging and discarding cards to find the exact combination, and it may or may not come up. This choice is amazing because as you get new cards, you have new things and new factors to consider. You're trying to figure out what cards can combo well with others, how you can recycle that deck, and what exactly is a hand that you're comfortable with stopping at. There's different classes with special abilities, different creatures that benefit different classes, more stronger than others, and there's cooperation and coordination between who's getting what cards, and some of the rewards will even allow you to customize each other's decks by swapping cards and switching them to build those combos. And this is all done in this single shot experience, which leads to a perfect arc of the game and finishes off with an amazing boss battle with all of the things that you've collected. So that is my number 56, Heroes of Tenefyr. My number 55, number 85 last year, is High Society. This is a small filler card game about auctioning, as you are part of wealthy families trying to get the most prestige by buying fancy things. And when you do so, you're going to be spending money, getting points, and at the end of the game, you're going to try to have the most prestige, but whoever has spent the most money automatically loses. And my favorite part about this game, though, has to be the way that they handle negative cards in the auction. So normally when a prestige card comes up, you'll bid money, whoever wins discards it and takes the prestige card. Awesome, positive points. But there's some terrible cards in this game. For example, the faux pas makes you discard one of your other prestige cards, or if you don't have any, you have to discard the next one you get. There's one that halves your score, one that's just straight -5 points. They're terrible and you do not want them. But if they show up, instead of bidding to take them, you're bidding money not to take them. And whoever decides to actually take them is going to make everybody else that put out money to not take it lose that cash. So it's a push and pull of, oh my gosh, am I actually going to take this thing and take this huge hit on these points? But maybe I can do just enough damage to push somebody below where maybe they'll have spent the most money now and I can win even with my small amount of victory points. I love the pacing of the game and the way the money has some restrictions on how you can play it and your total cap of money you can spend throughout the course of the experience. That's my number 55, High Society. My number 54, number 22 last year, is Fantasy Realms. This is another small filler card game where you're trying to build the perfect hand. Every turn, you'll draw a card from the top of the deck or from this face-up display area, and then you'll discard a card to the display area. Once there's 10 there, the game is over and you count up who has the most points in their hand. My favorite part about this game, though, is how you're scoring, and in particular, the Shoot the Moon cards. Every single card will have a base value in this upper left corner, but then they'll also have a potential bonus, something you can do to get even more points. And some of these cards are crazy. For example, World Tree here pushes you to have cards of all different colors, so now none of the combos that normally would work together by getting matching colors work. Or the Gem of Order requires you to have a run of specific numbered cards, like a 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, that base value point is pretty low, because some of these points can get up to like to 40 or 50, but the reward for getting a full 7-card run is 150 points. There are also cards that will search for specific cards, so there's so many things to think about, and when a single card comes up with a condition like this, I love to pick it and try to see if I can make it work. And the expansion also included all of these outsider cards, and about 4 out of the 6 of them have insane Shoot the Moon abilities. For example, the Genie here is -50 points, but he's able to search any card from the deck and put it into your hand, and then all of your penalties trigger, so you could do some crazy things where you search for something and then the genie flips face down and you can still get the benefit off of it. Awesome. The leprechaun will draw you a random card from the top of the deck, terrifying because it can ruin everything else that's going on. Or the judge here who's going to be pushing you to take as many penalty cards as you can and try to dodge those penalties. I love this scoring aspect, and it's something that I wish existed in more card games. Crazy out of this world scoring. That's my number 54, Fantasy Realms. My number 53 goes to Detective, a modern crime board game. This has you playing as FBI agents, the Antares team, as you're doing your best to solve a case. This case can be connected for multiple missions and give you an overarching story, but you'll do so by managing your time, visiting locations, and following up on leads. And you can play this as a single-shot experience. There's tiny little modules that you can play, or these large overarching campaigns. They've got this main one here, as well as one that's set in LA. There are even ones of this game set in the Dune universe, which I do not recommend, and then the one set in the Batman universe, which I do recommend. So you've got a lot of choices when it comes to how you approach this, but they have a sharing mechanism that I love, and that is the location mechanism. Whenever you get a lead in this game, it's going to tell you where you can talk to that person. So this game not only is a crime-solving game, but also a time management game, because you have to decide, okay, I know that I have a person out in the field that I need to go to, but it's going to take me some time to travel there, and then if I'm there, they might lead me to something else. Oh, they gave me a clue for something in the courthouse, but that's all the way downtown. So I have to make sure that I'm getting my stuff done out in the field today. Maybe I go home and hit the courthouse first thing in the morning the next day. So you're always weighing your options and prioritizing which things that you need to get done now. I love these choices that are constantly present, and it's just because of the spatial aspect and not even touching the complexities that come from discovering leads. So that is my number 53, Detective, a modern crime board game. My number 52, new to the list, is Vagrantsong. This is another campaign-style game where you play as vagrants aboard a train. You'll do your best to try to give back the humanity to these haints, restoring them back to normal, while not losing your own humanity and becoming a hallow yourself. So you'll be going around this train using these discs as action systems to beat them up, move around, as well as gain special abilities by completing these missions. But my favorite thing about this game is the way the bindle works. As you can see, there's this red bag up here, and it's filled with these items as well as potentially event tokens. And whenever you start a scenario, you'll have to throw in a couple, and each scenario will dictate what those tokens do. Now, every single time you play, you'll have this item reference that tells you what the tokens do if you have them, but when the enemies pull them, they'll have this chart on the left here that's going to tell you, oh, this is what this symbol means based on the mood of whatever the hand it is you're fighting. And you'll look at that book and it'll tell you exactly what's going on in the scenario. And then there's a certain point where once you reach those items, a certain amount of those items, you'll refresh that bag and start the whole process over again. But you have the items, the events, as well as the enemies all going into that bag. It feels like nothing was wasted in the design of this game. It's such a clean-cut package, and this is just one of many mechanisms. I've talked about this game a lot in the past year. It's one of my favorites from 2022. You've got the abilities, the boss fights himself, the scenario design. So much to love about Vagrantsong. That is my number 52. But my number 51, last game for this part of the list, is Massive Darkness 2 Hellscape, a dungeon crawler where you play as soldiers of the dark, as you've been trained to master the darkness using your special abilities to fight off this hellspawn. So you do so through fighting monsters. You'll get a couple actions each turn. You can move around, you can attack, use your different weapons, and when you finally defeat these creatures or these large mobs, you're going to be getting special items, loot, and picking from so many choices on how you want to upgrade your characters. Once you get enough XP, you'll be able to get these level up cards, and those are going to give you more options, and they're present in all of the different classes. And that's my favorite part about this game, are the different classes. Every time you play, you'll pick a hero class. For example, you have the Berserker here who gets a dashboard where they can spend their wounds in order to take additional strong actions. Or you could be the Rogue, and the Rogue has this bag, or the Ranger where you're doing a push your luck game and trying to get a certain amount of arrows. You have a lot of choices when it comes to which character you're playing and how you play them, but also based on the items as well as the level up trees that you pick during each game, it's going to change how that hero class plays in that specific playthrough. I love that it's not just a one and done. I could play the Rogue 7, 8, 9 times in a row and not be bored with them because of the different skill trees that you can pick and the scenarios that are present that you'll have to adapt to. We just finished a game of this recently where we had a paladin and a tinkerer. The paladin was throwing out all of these aura buffs on the board. The tinkerer was assembling their own special suit of armor, as well as some of these little machines. And we got to play our first boss fight recently, and I was so impressed. We'd played like 10 scenarios before that, just going through the dungeons like normal, but the boss fights are brilliant. A lot to love in Massive Darkness 2 Hellscape. That's my number 51. So that's this section of the list, numbers 60 through 51. Let's go ahead and end this video with a quick reflection. Starting off with Ink and Gold, 2005 release, so not brand new game, but brand new to the list, and this was taught to me by my friend Wade, so I got to play it for the first time and I was smitten. This game impressed me with its simplicity, but just how approachable it was to everybody while still retaining a constant choice, and that's one of my favorite parts in games, period. I had some big success with this in school, with families, friends, everybody, honestly, and my wife even plays this with elementary schoolers with like a group of 20, which sounds amazing to me. So Ink and Gold honestly impressed me. Two other additions to the list were Vagrantsong as well as Massive Darkness 2 Hellscape, ranked very highly on my best of 2022 list, so I won't go into too much in them here, but this is a testament to these designs that they are debuting on the list so high up already. Amazing games, that's Massive Darkness 2 and Vagrantsong. Moving on to the big movers in the list, High Society jumped from 85 down to 55, which is awesome, but I think a big reason it has to do with it is QE, honestly. I've had some really bad plays of QE recently, and even with the expansion, it's still just not good enough. And I think that High Society is amazing. So High Society is everything QE wishes it was, with such a clean, controlled system that keeps an excellent cadence and pacing, but such a tight package with still that amazing decision space, and that same end condition of if you spend the most, you lose. But I think that the negative cards in this make this game truly shine. So that's High Society. The other big jumper is Las Vegas Royale, and this one has continued to impress. The minigames are engaging and fun, and the choice that you have when you're deciding whether to engage with them or not. I covered this in my little blurb of this, but I think this is a brilliant system, and it's one you need to give a try. And the biggest drop on this list was for Fantasy Realms, going from 22 down to 54, and I think that has to do with the scoring of this game. And most of the time when you're playing Fantasy Realms, the scoring might take longer than the actual game itself, and that could be kind of annoying when you just want to be playing that experience. But the experience is so rewarding as you're taking things and pushing it, and the scoring can be pretty exciting as you're trying to see, okay, did it actually work? How did it go? So I think that balances it out, but I think that's maybe the reason that it went down just a little bit. So that's Fantasy Realms. And we'll go ahead and close the list there. That is number 60 through 51. Thank you so much for watching. I'm curious to hear, what are your top 60 through 51 board games in your personal collections, and what did you think of our choices here? Do you agree with the mechanisms that we love about these games? I'm so excited to hear what you think. But thank you so much for watching. SideGame Strong.